Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, I'm not going to tell you everything about the Centre of Competence. Looking at the time is really, really against us, so I might just skip through some of the things so we can keep to time. We've still got a lot to get through today. I guess one of the challenges for a project like Impact is, and I hope you agree, we've heard a lot of good things over the last day and a half. We've seen some great tools and great outputs from the collaborative activities of the project partners. But how how do we prevent it becoming like this? So if we just put Impact to the side and say, we've done a great project, we've had some great outputs, we put it to the side and we all go off and get involved with our other activities, it may become like this. I won't mention the project, but I looked on a website at a project which was around the space of digitization, talking about some best practice. But when I looked at the documents and the dates for them, we were talking about 2003, 2004. So if you came to that site today looking for relevant, up-to-date information, then it wouldn't be too helpful. So we have the notion of the Impact Centre of Competence. Mr. Urana in his talk gave some, the scope for this. And I actually remember in November 2006 attending a meeting at the European Commission in Luxembourg, which was a workshop on centres of competence in digitisation and digital preservation. So it's exciting to be here today to see a centre of competence being born. And it was interesting, I hadn't really thought about it during the project, but one of the things we were asked to bring to that meeting in 2006 was for each of the institutions that were represented to look at what they would want from a centre of competence. And when I looked at what we were saying as the British Library, a lot of the things that have happened within this project and we forecast for the Centre of Competence are helping us to achieve that. A lot of text on some of these slides. I won't be going through all of them, but they are there for you to read. But why a Centre of Competence? Well, I have to confess, we haven't solved every single problem in digitising, extracting text from historical documents. So it's not complete. There's still more to be done. And so those challenges, or the Centre of Competence, can become a vehicle to continue to look in at addressing those challenges. How do we ensure that we have good implementation in a production environment? I really enjoyed the talk this morning by Gregory Crane, as we saw from the other end of the workflow, how, in that case, an academic researcher, the type of tools, the type of questions they're asking and wanting to extract from these resources. And more can be done to link up between, in effect, what is a foundational activity. Impact is providing the foundation. It's not the end point. Getting the good quality OCR text enables us to undertake new avenues of research. And I think one of the strong things of Impact is we've developed a very strong collaboration between different communities, and we want to build on that and continue that good work. Who's the centre for? Well, you've heard over the last day and a half, you've heard from people from libraries who hold content that are looking to digitise them. We've heard from researchers, and we will in the sessions that follow, particularly in areas of historical document processing, pattern recognition, image processing and language technologies. We've also heard from industry. And that's who the Centre of Competence is for. It's about bringing these communities together to effectively look at ways to optimize the tools that extract text from historical documents. Long list of potential benefits, but let's just focus on a couple. We haven't talked a lot over the last day and a half about one aspect of the project, which is about building capability in digitisation of historical texts. So when I look back at what we were saying as a British Library, as a British Library we wanted from a Centre of Competence, was a place to share best practice, was a place to discuss and agree standards and the best way forward. How can we ensure that the resources that we were producing can interoperate? And so within the Impact project, we have developed what is known as a knowledge bank. This is a page from the website, which you'll be able to go and visit. And it just shows some of the types of resources we're creating. Best practice guidelines, briefing papers, case studies, open educational resources. And you can see there some of the topics that are covered. Looking at the complete workflow of digitising historical texts. This is by no means it. We see this as a living, developing resource, and part of what the Centre of Competence will do as we go forward, it will fill in gaps, it will react to new technologies and new approaches to digitising historical texts. Another way of building capabilities is where do we go to get answers to some of the questions that we have? How can we maybe hook up with institutions who have maybe come across those challenges and address them? Maybe even how we learn from the mistakes of others. So another resource we've made available is a help desk where questions can be asked, and then those questions are routed to experts who can give some insight into how to address that particular issue. I'm going to skip over this, but for researchers, one of the valuable resources that we've produced is the data set, the ground truth data set. We've heard a lot about that, and as we've talked with the scientific research community, that is a huge benefit in advancing the state of the art in the various scientific areas covered by the Impact project. And benefits for industry. Industry are really important in these large-scale activities. We've heard from some of the industry partners, and we do see them as a key part of the Centre of Competence activities. So the challenge is, how do we then sustain this Centre of Competence? We've been fortunate. We've had a lot of funding over the last 4 years. And as was mentioned just a moment ago, the challenge for the Centre of Competence is to look at how it can sustain itself. There's sort of 4 key aspects to the Centre of Competence that we have to look at sustaining and by which we can sustain. So we've just shown you the website. The website really is the virtual hub of the Centre of Competence that exposes the products and services we offer, allows some of those to be consumed and to point people at how they can get the assistance or the information that they need. So we've come up a model for sustaining the centre of competence that really has two key elements to it. One is, can we leverage from the partners who are in the impact centre of competence some level of resourcing to allow the centre of competence to deliver those products and services that I skipped through on the previous slides. So, if we're going to have a help desk as an example, actually we need some people to answer the questions. If we're going to run some training events, we need some people to do the training, and we need a location to host that. Or if we want to continue to develop the knowledge bank, we need some commitment to update articles or write new articles. And so it goes on if you look at the various products and services that we're offering. And so what we've done as we've looked to develop the Centre of Competence is to talk to the various partners in the project and receive commitments from them that at their own expense they will have some resources available to answer help desk questions, or have some resources available to administer the help desk so we can route the questions and make sure they're answered in a timely manner. And so that's a big part of sustaining the Centre of Competence. Another part is membership. We do see this as a membership body, and I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm rapidly running out of time. But of course, there needs to be some kind of core that manages the Centre of Competence to make sure it delivers against its objectives, to make sure it develops in a coordinated way, to make sure we recruit and retain members and we're meeting the needs of those members. And that's quite a significant understanding. So whereas a number of the partnership contributions will become part of people's jobs. So here at the British Library, we already have a role where we do answer questions and help people in their addressing questions and issues around digitisation. And what we can do is that just build in a certain portion of time to deal with impact centre of competence. When we come to the central office, this is actually where we're looking at having resources sitting in seats pretty much dedicated either full-time or 50% of their time to centre of competence activities. So this is quite a tall undertaking. This is going to institutions and saying, you need to, or can you provide a body to do something, to look after the office. Come back to that in a minute. So I talked about membership. We have 3 levels of membership: open, available to everyone, access to the forum, which I haven't talked about, but just a place for the community to come together and discuss matters, and a limited set of content. Basic membership, which gives access to all the website facilities, reduction for conferences, and then a premium membership, which become part of the governing process, and there are some additional benefits. This is, I stand here and talk, this is what we're going to go with in terms of what the membership costs are. You can see those there. I'm going to skip on because, as I said, one of the major commitments that needs to be made in terms of sustaining the Centre of Competence, and with any startup, the difficult phase is the early phase, where maybe there isn't the revenue to cover the cost. And so in terms of setting up this office, we needed an institution or institutions who are willing to bear that risk and set up the Centre of Competence and look to build this centre over the coming months and years. So we're pleased to announce that 2 institutions have risen to that challenge and will bear a lot of the risks with setting up the Centre of Competence. We've got the Biblioteca Nacional de France and I said I was going to do this in Spanish rather than anglicize it, but the Fundación Biblioteca Virtual Miguel de Cervantes. So Raphael will tell me how well or bad I did. What we wanted to do, just very quickly, is just to ask for representatives from those institutions, just in a minute or two, just explain why they felt they were prepared to take on this Centre of Competence office. So we've got Isabel Dussert-Carboni and then Raphael Carusco. So if they could just come up and...
No slides for me, so I will begin. Well, for BNF, impact project was very important, and you know also that we participate to the launch of Europeana in 2006, and we have an experience of mass digitization, quite an old experience now of OCR, because we started in 2006 too with newspapers, and all the tools and the competencies developed in the impact project had for the Bibliothèque Nationale de France to continue to go on, and we were ready to move with impact for this Centre of Competence. But what I want to say is that I think Raphael and I will be the shadow workers, sustaining and hosting the centre. But we need all the impact members in this centre, and we need all the impact members working in this centre, because we are going to give one FTE, that's it, half time of our expert, Geneviève Cron, our OCR expert, everybody know her, and half time but center manager, and business developer. We'll see if this business model works. And I think it will be a lot of work, not only collecting fees, you see, but really create a center competence which can do business with libraries, university, research centers, industry providers. And that's why we choose to try for a year and see if this center is sustainable. I hope it will be.
So, hello everybody. As a representative of our institution, the Biblioteca Virtual Miguel de Cervantes, I just want to stress that there are a few reasons why we decided to cooperate with the National Library of France to implement this experiment, which we expect to be very successful. First, because there are a lot of partners. We have a lot of partners that we know they are willing to participate in this experiment. And well, second, because we will be the catalyzers of the work, not the essentially the performers. And I think we'll receive a lot of help. But from the organizational point of view, which is the part that we will contribute to, I would like to stress that from our institution, we will try to provide some experience, mainly in 5 different fields. The first one is cooperation for the last 10 years between private and public institutions, this public-private partnership. Also sponsorship by these private institutions. Second, that we have a complementary point of view because we are both a research institution and a large-scale, medium-scale digital library. And third, because we have strong connections with a part of the world which is now in moving, very active, all the Latin, with America, especially Latin American institutions, but also in Northern America. And fourth, because we have run for a few years a European-funded project, which was the IPR help desk. So we have some experts on dealing with intellectual property rights issues. And well, finally, because the Miguel de Cervantes Digital Library is a complex one in the sense that it is kind of distributed library with many agreements with third parties, and so it was necessary to integrate different sources of data and also to perform some community management to get the institutions more involved in the project. So our commitment, it is similar. I think the National Library of France has a similar commitment, is that we will run with the costs of the main costs for the first year, because we will provide the personnel to run this center of competence. We will provide an office, of course. And mainly, we will assume the administrative tasks so that we will help with them. In addition to that, we have some interesting experience in managing network research connections, and we see this center of competence as partly as a technology transfer tool, so that the expertise of our partners will be transferred to, let's call them customers that are interested in this knowledge. And finally, of course, we will, I think we will have as we had in the past, an active and nice coordination with the National Library of France, which will be the main office. Some additional things that we can help with is that we have a tradition of preparing and distributing open source software, if that is the case, that some partners want to proceed in this way. And think the other things I have here, I think they are redundant with the things I have said, but I would like to stress our strong connections with the Latin American world, which is a very interesting part to implement and to test the tools that we have developed, or the expertise that we have collected during the impact project. But the picture is not complete if you don't collect the challenges that you have in front of you. So the main challenges we find is that we have to integrate expertise which is highly variable from different partners with different features, different characteristics. Second, and very important, it is not possible to keep a project like this running without continuous innovation, because what is the new results that we have here now will not be new in 2 or 3 years. So we need to keep to help all the partners to keep their research spirit alive and the cooperation alive. I'm pretty sure they want to, but we have to be the catalyzers of this movement. Finally, we have to help to identify the target customers, that's for sure. And a smaller point, but sometimes important, is that we have to attend somehow the multilinguality, especially for those institutions that don't feel comfortable working all the time with the English, which is now the lingua franca we are using, but some institutions want some attention in this aspect. So we have very interesting challenges that makes the Center of Competence a very interesting thing to get involved in. And we hope we have the feedback from you so that anything that you miss or you think we can help with, please let us know as soon as possible, because we will be in the next months preparing a more detailed calendar so that in next January, we have everything running, or most of the things running and prepared for your interests, both from the partners and from the what I call customers, but any institution that wants to cooperate or demands some services or whatever from the Center of Competence. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Isabel and Raphael. Let me get my, there you go, look at that. So, Centre of Competence, I have really rushed through it, but I hope we get a sense of what the Centre of Competence is about. I hope you get a sense of maybe the role that you and your institution can play in that Centre of Competence. You know, it's something I'm very excited about. I've thought about this for a long, long time. It's great to see that we've got today where we've launched it, but it clearly isn't the destination. You know, it is really the start of something, and it works best when, you know, the whole community work to build this. We're really grateful to the institutions who are taking the centre office on. You know, I haven't been able to list all the commitments partners have made, but many of them are making great commitments, which give us a really strong possibility of turning this into a very successful endeavour that ultimately is helping bring in Europe's cultural heritage to those who want to consume it in the very, very different ways that they do. We're very behind time, but I think we've touched on many of these, of what it's about and how it's going to work. So I'm just going to hand over just briefly to Lika, and she's just going to cover. I'm not sure what you're covering.
Yeah, I'm just going to cover quickly the new website and some important features on it. My name is Lieke Ploeger, and I'm the manager of the Impact Project Office. And well, this is the new website. You're all invited to have a look. The address is on the cards that you got and on the stickers and in the logo, of course. As you see on the top, there are the social media icons to our different channels that we are using. Oh, and before I forget, I would like also to thank Sherry Design for doing the beautiful design of this new website. So thank you very much. It's really very nice, I think. Well, so on the top here, you will find these little icons who point to, of course, our Twitter channel, which we've been using quite a lot during this event as well. SlideShare, where you can find all kinds of presentations on Impact. Our YouTube channel, the LinkedIn group. Vimeo, where we share larger videos of talks, for example. And the My Experiment page that Clemens Neudecker mentioned yesterday, where we have a workflow registry. And finally, we have some important upcoming events. Clemens also mentioned yesterday, I think, the hackathon, which will take place in 2 weeks in Manchester. There's just a few places left. And then in early December, we will be participating in the DISH conference, which is a conference on strategy for digital heritage in Rotterdam. And we're hosting a joint workshop together with the BHL Europe and Catch Plus projects on innovative ways of sustaining project results. And you're also invited to join us there, of course. And we will also be organizing future conferences as a Center of Competence, so please keep an eye on our website or Twitter or any other channels, of course. And finally, if you want to sign up, please go there. Of course, we're very happy if you want to sign up for our Center of Competence. And now I think you're all welcome to join us for lunch.